What happened in here? The forest is dying. Everyone here can feel it. Our harvests, which were bountiful and generous years ago, have become thin and withered. The birds have all but left. The leaves are falling earlier each year, and it's as if the very water is ill with sickness. The soldiers have warned us not to forage in the glade because of the disappearances of Kellen and Fermal. Oh wow. We're leaving. There were sickening screams and shrieks at the watchtower in the night, and the soldiers have not come down this morning for their patrols. The whole village is packing to flee. Whatever attacked the watchtower in the night, we can feel that it's still there. We're leaving for Morthal immediately to warn the Jarl and get help. We just need to find... Well, that was cut off. My scribing tools are lost and I have no time for a lengthy entry anyway. It's taken weeks, but I finally found it. Oh. Huh. Okay. I will deal with you in a minute, Mr. Crab. Wow. Oh. I think this entire town got cursed by the hag ravens. That's never a good thing. Who wouldn't suffer a heart attack in the middle of what amounts to a cursed swamp? It'll be the last one before I go to bed. Go. Oh yeah, there you are.
You hear the old stories. Sweet enough to play on a bard's lute. They always start the same. Something like, once upon a time in a world not unlike a dream. Sometimes I wonder if this is all just that. A story. Yours. Mine. Maybe the tavern owners. All of Skyrim. Tis a cold drink of ale poured into a frozen glass. That's why I'm always at the lighthouse. Just to take it all in before it melts away. And what about you, stranger? What about this city speaks to you? I understand that all too well. I migrated from Solitude. Every structure there is like a mausoleum.
So what made you leave Solitude, Jasper?
Solitude, for lack of a better word, is suffocating. It's not just the walls and the people. It's the inside of the buildings, too. They all have the same thick, musky smell. Like the kind that you find in abandoned shacks. With boarded up windows. Where the air is freckled with dust. Only in Solitude, the windows are frosted. When the light gets filtered through them, even the sun feels cold. The name's Jasper Gerston. I'm a raider. Aspiring raider. Always forget that word. Funny how large the chasm is between the two. I've tried. In fact, when I was in Solitude, I wrote maybe hundreds of tales, but none worth reading. I was still maturing then, looking for my voice. I would look back on something I penned a week before, shake my head at how shallow the words were, how empty they felt. I began to doubt if I could write anything of substance, and found my solace at the bottom of a flagon.
Of course.
I spent my nights at the Winking Skeever, and my mornings outside his door. Even Ogtier's found my behavior uncouth. One night, Corpulus got fed up, kicked me out into the streets and told me to never come back. That's when I met my muse. No, not this time. Probably never will. My muse was different. He was a warrior. An orc. He was a titan. With arms like tree trunks cut from the great forest. Only, something wasn't right about the way he looked at the tavern sign. When I asked him what was wrong, he managed to force out a word. His bottom lip quivered like a child who just dropped a sweet roll. The word he said was skeever. It was a giant, with shoulders larger than the domes of the Blue Palace. And he was absolutely terrified of rats.
I think I know this orc.
That night, for the first time, I wrote with purpose. There was none of the doubt or fear that marred my previous work. The words came faster than I could jot them down. For 3 days and 3 nights I continued. When I was done, I knew the work was true. It was the best manuscript I had ever written. It was the best I could ever write. I tried. I bound the book and took it to a writer named Dodonato Liatelli. I told him the author was anonymous. Said so right on the first page. I didn't want his opinion colored by my presence. I'm not sure it would have mattered. You know what he told me? He said the story read like it was written by a blacksmith. And that's when I knew I was still aspiring. And maybe always will be. And the delusional often exaggerate their own worth. I could be a genius ahead of his time. A writer without peer. I could be a failure who doesn't belong. Scribbling words that have no soul. To walk either path is to go down a lonely road. But that is Skyrim. It was a wandering thought, passed on to a stranger. I was looking at the ocean this morning. Came to a realization. Skyrim is a tale with no end. You flip back to a previous page, only to find that the line's been changed. But the old themes still remain. There will always be war, suffering, glory, and love. Time never grows old. It's a season unending. A story everlasting.
Oh. I like that I can pick... Huh. These two kind of make sense. But this one... With where with this character will be heading... This one kind of makes sense to her.
So it did in the Great War, in the Oblivion Crisis, and countless times before. The return of an ancient evil. The birth of a new one, somewhere out there. A hero is waking up in a strange room, in a dungeon, or in their bed, rubbing their eyes to slow music and a bottle of warm mead. And it happens. The bard bangs his drum. The mead goes down like a knife in the throat. The city burns. A treasure is found. A boy meets a girl. The story I wrote was about a warrior. Good tales are never about the wars, but the people who fight them. That's why wars are so personal. Everyone has someone they lost. All of our fates woven into a single wound. Except mine. The world has its problems. And I have my problems. And neither one cares about the other.
Then why stay in Skyrim?
The Nords are somewhat primitive. Some still think that wearing fine clothes without fur means you worship danger. But simple minds can foster strong emotion. The Nords are people willing to swear their undying fealty to a feeling. That's what I'm trying to capture.
Hmm.
No. Not since Adonato rejected my last work. I'm trying a new style. This word's more pith. As if each sentence were its own story. Traveling to Windhelm changed me in two ways. I now lack the funds to travel. More importantly, the Constitution. Alas, no. I've heard that a writer's words must sing from the page.
Yeah.
The bard takes that interpretation literally. I tried it once.
You have to make the characters come to life.
Is much higher than for writers, which is evident by the number of
It's
people.
kind of like script writers, only you have to make it much more interesting. Well, I think my character thinks you have a very handsome voice, Jasper. She enjoys your company.
So you've lost your hearing. Shame. There's nothing more sad and beautiful than a lady who's damaged.
Wow.
Don't fall victim to nostalgia. It's just another kind of loneliness. Alas, no. I've heard that a writer's words must sing from the page. The bard takes that interpretation literally. I tried it once, singing. The demand for bards is much higher than for writers, which is evident by the number of people in Skyrim who can read. But Viramo is a poetic bard, not a singing one. He's also a talented lutist. I do none of the three. Alas, I tried it once, singing. The demand for bards is much higher than for writers. Have you ever heard of the Bard's Leap? Better a corpse than a poet. Alas, no. I tried it once, singing. The demand for bards is much higher than for writers.
I wonder what his reaction to.
By the number of people in
Skyrim. Let's see what his reaction to this is.
Close. It
Huh.
wasn't as emotive as your description.
Yeah.
Still cleared the room, however.
Oh wow. And the next one.
No. I've heard that a writer's words must sing. I tried it once, singing. The demand for bards is some things are fundamental. The sun will rise in the east. The snow will fall in Winterhold. And I will never be the man people want me to be. Live your days, so the days will not outlive you. Of course, The Nords have a word for this. It's cowardice. Solitude. They all have... Only in solitude, the windows are frosted. When the light gets... Can I help you?
No,
Alright then.
I'll be back for you, Jasper.
God, I'm so tired.
What can you tell me about Dawnstar, Saren?
Not much. I came here a few years ago from Hammerfell when I married. The land is beautiful, but I can't stand this cold. I don't know how Rustleaf manages it.
You're from Hammerfell?
That's right. Home of the Redguards. The land of sand and seas. I hope one day I'll convince Rustleaf to take us back there. Until then, I'm content running the forge together here in Dawnstar.
Huh, okay.
We forge every day if you need anything.
Oh, thank you.
Seems like no one is getting a decent night's rest in Dawnstar, stranger. Best buy your steel and move on.
Why not?
Nightmares? I haven't met a single man or woman who doesn't admit to having them. A bad dream, I can handle. But everyone having the same bad dream every night? It's a curse, I say. I hear there's a priest of Mara visiting the inn. Maybe the divines will cure us. I've worked on a few moorings here and there for it. Most of the ship captains are superstitious about who works on their vessels, though. And Dawnstar is known for its bad luck. We're the last port of call before Hjal, and the ore we trade makes rich targets for pirates. The finest weapons and armor.
Okay.
Come back if you need steel. Are you feeling sick?
Yes? Need something? Huh? Need something? Huh? Yes? Need something? Huh? Yes? Yes? Need something? Need something? Huh? Need something?
Well, hello.
Hello. What do you have for sale?
Take a look.
Okay. Not much.
What is? I take it you think I'm the captain of the Sea Squall. It must be the beard. Hate to disappoint you, but not every person who wears a beard is a rugged leader of men. Some of us are just ruggedly handsome. No, the one you want to talk to is the boy, Captain Leaf Wayfinder. Flattery, eh? Can't say I'm not used to it. Not a mortal in all of Mundus who doesn't fancy a sailor. Some people think it takes a lot of hard work to achieve this level of magnificence. For most people, maybe. I just keep a healthy trim and treat my beard with respect, and he gladly returns the favour. Which is more than I can say for the boy. Don't know what he thinks he sees when he stares at his reflection in the morning. Whatever it is, it can't be the same thing the rest of us laugh at behind his back. Well, have you seen it? The thing makes him look like some sort of diseased owl. I know the youth like to style their beards. You got kids today with moustaches and mutton chops, forks and sparrows, puffs and patches. Well, I say mutton chops are for mutton heads. Forked beards mean forked tongues. And whatever the captain is sporting is worse than all of them. That's a good question. I like the ocean, but I don't love it. I'm not like these salt sniffers who use clams as coin purses and have more barnacles on their crotch than hair.
So why become a sailor if you hate the job?
I guess I chose it because it's the thing I hate the least. And every day I see these miners walk out soaked in sweat, I realise I made the right choice. Although, if I were a miner, I reckon I'd figure out some way to weasel out of working. No point breaking your back for a job with no future. Well, that's exactly my point. If you want the day to pass by sooner, you aren't exactly enjoying the day. I don't have to respect the boy to like him. He inherited the ship from his hag-raven of a mother, and it was nothing short of a miracle. Well, the ship's got but one mast, so it's not the fastest vessel, and it doesn't handle particularly well either. But she's sturdy, and has a hull bigger than a witness's backside. So you know the cargo is going to get there, if not on time. I've yet to see a storm strong enough to capsize her, although one came close when we were off the coast of the Iliac Bay. Wasn't really a storm so much as the waves. They eddied and swayed with no direction, as if the ocean itself were as confused. When the eye hit us, I ran over to the port side and emptied my stomach. It's then that I saw a school of shadowy figures pass under the hull. Dolphins, I thought. Only something was odd about the way their tails lashed under the water, and the curve of their bodies as well, like no fish I know, and their heads, long, wispy, almost like hair. And when it strummed the water, I could almost hear the melody of the ocean in my head.
Yeah, it could have been a lamia.
I've heard of such creatures, but these were deep waters. No place for serpent women. And it doesn't explain the tail section. Shaped like the fluke of a whale, but it's shibbered like elven glass.
You're talking about mermaids. He saw a mermaid.
He's always complaining about the captain. In truth,
Or a siren.
something else lazier than I am. But he is
No,
too
that
stupid to
one,
let anyone
eh,
know it. I'm gonna find a new
not
ship,
good.
he says. Huh. Where else can a man get paid to lie around the dock all day and hoot at the mining girls?
Wait, why do you think Ravum complained, Zen?
When he complains, that's the pride talking. He doesn't like taking orders from a child. He'll get over it. I'd sooner shave him a beard than help him. Ravam is prideful and ambitious. A bad mix of ale, if you ask me. The first thing he'd want to do is prove he's a real captain. And that'll mean some risky venture out into the sea of ghosts. The sooner he stops caring about what people think, the sooner he'll be able to enjoy the reign of Captain Shorefinder. I do, but wasn't sure if you wanted to hear my critique. Guthrum has one of those wispy moustaches that looks like a whale's fluke. Man needs to act his age and get a beard. As for Ravam, can't say as much of anything, which is probably for the best. Better than to not even try than grow one out and look like a fool. The old mariner's got one foot in the trench already, and he ain't the type to make waves. Besides, he thinks the boy is learning. What he means by that is anyone's guess. The boy doesn't even know how to tie his shoes. Can't see how he can hoist a sail. Fine. I do. I've served under a few captains in my day, and most of them were unruly taskmasters. Fortunately, the boy is as soft as seaweed. Grew up on land with his father, some coin counter for the East Empire Company. So the boy has no experience at sea, and even less with men. He doesn't like raising his voice or telling the crew what to do.
I think his mother wouldn't put up the milk drinker for a son.
Sure, if his mother were here, she'd tell him to be assertive, confident. The boy certainly tries to be, and some days he halfway gets there. Only being halfway confident is like being halfway pregnant. All I have to do is complain a bit, and he'll fold faster than a torn sail. It's a good thing, too. The boy's too scared of Ravam, and he doesn't like pushing Guthrum in his old age. That just leaves me. Greener than pond scum, and just as wet behind the ears. The boy needs a bloody chart just to find his crotch.
Ah!
The other day, he got the lover and the shadow mixed up, and nearly sailed us right into a glacier teeming with ice wraiths. And the divines Guthrum smucked the boy and took the helm. The place was a sudden death trap. I almost would have preferred the captain sail us into oblivion. One of these days, he just might. That's not likely. It takes stones to strip a man of his livelihood. It's like killing someone, only you have to look them in the eye. It's you, and you alone, has to tell him his children will starve. You have to stand before him, man to man, and tell him he has to sell his wife to a stronghold, to spend the rest of her life as some orc love slave. Only the captain wouldn't do that. He wants to be liked. He cares too much. We aren't sailors to him, we're family. Nothing good ever came out of caring. There is two ways to happiness in this world. One's bitter and cold and comes in a bottle. The other is just learning to be cold.
Nice. Actually, the only emotion a person needs is unrelenting fury. Or, yeah, that's one of the. That's one of the shouts too. I think.
Passion is like fire. Good for warmth, bad for the skin. Like the old captain. Spent all night drinking and sailing and serenading the stars. I used to think the woman was a vampire the way she never slept. Except she paid for every minute with those puffy, clamshell eyes. You get lonely out at sea. And they say sometimes if you stare at the ocean long enough, even the fish grow bosoms. But I'd sooner make love to a slaughter fish than touch that leathery old woman. Ravan. He would have taken the old hag she'd offered. Probably figured she'd leave him the ship. The poor fool had no idea she had a son. No wonder he's so bitter. Sure. It happened when I was but a minnow, working on a different boat. I was more stowaway than deckhand. Now you hear stories about men going overboard, getting swept away by a rough wind or going mad from the heat. Most of them get picked up, but some captains will let a man drown. If that happens, there is no way a man can survive, except on this voyage. We found a man, 8 days off the shore, and there he was, clinging to a plank out in the middle of nowhere.
Damn.
Maybe if he was an Aragonian, it would have made sense. Only this man was an Imperial, and by all accounts he had nothing more than a cold. He never said so much as a word the rest of the voyage, but he had the crew spooked. It was more than just the circumstances of his arrival. Foolish as I was, I tried to speak with him once. Only the captain himself wrenched me aside and told me to stay away.
You ever find out who he was?
Yes and no. It wasn't until we docked at Solitude and the Imperial went on his way that the captain took me aside. He asked me, "Are you blind, boy? Did you not see the dagger? The way that Imperial was dressed?" I was never much one for paying attention, but like a sailor mapping a constellation, I began to connect the stars.
What'd you notice about him that was different?
It's not as if the clothes and the dagger are hailed from across the ocean, but they were just foreign enough to be strange. I suppose you know naught of history, boy, the captain said, but the hilt on his dagger and the style of his tunic are not from this time. Yet, that dagger was as fresh as codling, forged maybe 3 weeks before we left dock, and not a sign of rust.
Now that is interesting.
Right then.
I will see you later, Frick.
Huh?
That was interesting. Now it's got my brain spinning, head spinning. Who could it have been? If the clothes weren't from this time period. Is Shay Gorath going around tricking people again?